Imagine this. A tiny drone, no bigger than a shoebox, zipping through the sky, locking on to a massive Russian tank. A moment later, boom! That multi-million-dollar machine is nothing but twisted metal. And the craziest part? The drone that took it out cost a couple of $1,000. This is the new face of war in Ukraine. Cheap, fast and deadly drones are changing the battlefield, flipping the script on traditional military power. While Russia rolls out tanks that cost millions, Ukraine is sending in drones that cost a fraction of that, but are just as destructive. How is this even possible? Let's break it down. FPV drones, or first-person view drones, are like something out of a video game. Pilots wear special goggles that give them a real-time view from the drone's camera, making it feel like they are flying the drone themselves. It's like playing Call of Duty, but in real life. These drones are fast. They can weave through trees, fly over trenches, and, most importantly, strike with pinpoint accuracy. That's what makes them perfect for tank hunting. Tanks may be heavily armored, but they have weak spots like their engine compartments and turrets. A well-placed drone strike can turn a Russian war machine into a burning wreck. Here's where it gets wild. The drones Ukraine is using are not some high-tech expensive gadgets. No, these things are ridiculously cheap. Some cost as little as $500 to $2,000. Think about that for a second. A Russian T-90 tank, which is a beast of a machine, comes with a price tag of around $4 million. That's like using a baseball to smash a Rolls-Royce. A simple homemade drone versus one of the most advanced tanks on the planet. But that's the brilliance of Ukraine's strategy. Instead of spending millions on a handful of fancy, top-of-the-line drones, they're flooding the battlefield with thousands of affordable, efficient ones. And here's the real kicker. It's not just the Ukraine military building these things. There is a volunteer group, Wild Hornets, that's creating drones in secret, like some sort of underground garage mechanics of modern warfare. These guys aren't working with military-grade equipment. They're taking off-the-shelf parts, cheap components, the kind anyone could buy, and slapping them together to create high-speed FPV drones capable of wreaking havoc on Russian lines. The Wild Hornets are sending these drones straight to the front, with nothing more than determination and resourcefulness driving them. It's an arms race, but with a twist. Instead of spending fortunes on a few expensive toys, Ukraine's approach is simply to flood the battlefield. The result? Russian tanks and armored vehicles are getting shredded, one cheap drone at a time. And the Russians? They've got almost nothing in place to stop the swarm. Anti-drone technology is still catching up, and in the meantime, the numbers keep piling up. More drones, more destruction. It's a calculated game of numbers, and right now, Ukraine's stacking the odds in their favor. One of their best creations? The Hornet drone. It's light, fast, and can carry enough explosives to blow up a tank. The best part? They're making these drones for dirt cheap using parts you can order online. They constantly tweak and upgrade their designs, staying one step ahead of Russian defenses. Ukraine also has a special type of FPV drone called the Dragon drone. These aren't your average bomb-dropping drones. They carry thermite charges and fiery metal-melting bombs that can burn straight through tank armor. A Dragon drone swoops in, drops its thermite, and within seconds, the tank's armor starts glowing red hot before melting away. That tank isn't going anywhere. And the best part? It's all done remotely, keeping Ukrainian soldiers out of harm's way. It's not just the destruction of tanks that's shaking up the battlefield, it's the psychological effect. Imagine being a Russian tank crew member. You're sitting in a 60-ton war machine thinking you're invincible. Then you hear a buzzing sound overhead. Is it just the wind? Or is it a drone about to drop a bomb right on your head? That kind of stress wears soldiers down. Russian troops have been caught on video panicking, jumping out of their tanks and running for cover at the sound of incoming drones. The Ukrainian military has even released footage of drones chasing down Russian soldiers as they flee. It's turning into psychological warfare, one where the constant fear of an invisible enemy keeps soldiers on edge 24/7. This drone warfare isn't just making headlines, it's forcing both sides to rethink their entire military strategies. Tanks, which have ruled battlefields for over a century, are suddenly looking vulnerable. In response, Russia is trying to adapt, using more electronic jamming systems and anti-drone defenses. But here's the thing. Drone technology is evolving faster than defenses can keep up. Newer FPV drones are being developed that are harder to jam, faster than ever, and capable of carrying even deadlier payloads. Ukraine is also experimenting with drone swarms, where multiple drones attack at once, overwhelming defenses and making it nearly impossible to stop them all. Russia isn't just sitting back and watching its tanks get obliterated. They're trying everything, deploying anti-drone nets, using radio jamming, and even strapping makeshift armor on their tanks to deflect drone strikes. Some tanks now have a weird cage armor on top to block incoming drone attacks. But the problem is that Ukrainian drone pilots are smart. They're adapting just as fast. Some are now flying at lower altitudes to avoid detection, while others are programming drones to circle and strike from unexpected angles. No matter what Russia tries, the drones keep coming. The success of Ukraine's drone strategy is raising big questions about the future of warfare. If cheap drones can take out tanks worth millions, will nations start relying less on traditional armored vehicles? Will we see a shift towards mass-producing drones instead of tanks and fighter jets? One thing's for sure, the battlefield will never be the same. Drones aren't just an accessory anymore, they're becoming the main weapon. And as technology advances, they're only going to get deadlier. It's not just tanks in danger. Armored vehicles, supply convoys, and even low-flying helicopters are now vulnerable to these cheap but lethal drones. Ukrainian forces have even started using drones to target enemy trenches, dropping grenades right into Russian bunkers. The days of big, expensive military hardware ruling the battlefield might be numbered. Even other countries are watching closely. The US, China, and European nations are all noting how these drones are reshaping combat. If a cheap, homemade drone can take out a multi-million-dollar tank, what does that mean for future wars? The war in Ukraine has shown that you don't need the biggest weapons to win battles. Sometimes, all you need is a smart strategy and a whole lot of drones. The age of tank dominance might be ending, and a new era of warfare is beginning. One where tiny, cheap machines can bring down the giants of war. So, what do you think? Are drones the future of warfare? Will tanks become a thing of the past? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.